Namo Bhaktivinodaya Satchidananda Namane Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanoga Varayate. You're all fasting today, is it? This morning? Well, just to demonstrate, I'm not. Different calendars say different things. As far as I remember, we didn't fast on these days for when Prabhupada was personally present, but no harm if you do so, of course. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Srishtam Manum Api Shachiputramatra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajam Urupuring Maturim Goshtavartim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Ataf Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagarna Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Bharijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagarna Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitanscha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Today is the appearance of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the anniversary celebration. Sometimes on Radhashtami, I don't particularly give a talk, but I sing songs of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. His Radhashtakam. He has a series of songs in Bengali on the glories of Srimati Radharani. I didn't do that this year, but my talks on Sri Radha have extended right up to this appearance day of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So I thought it suitable for today to not to sing songs of Thakur. Well, I might sing-song them. But songs in which he himself expresses his aspirations to serve Sri Radha. It's a very great topic which I haven't studied deeply. You could go very deeply into these topics. But anyway, these topics are more to be tasted than studied. You can study, certainly as we study. We'll be blessed with more and more depth of understanding if we study the way we should study Srimad Bhagavatam. Same, it's to be tasted. Srimad Bhagavatam is to be tasted. It's for rasikas to taste. But in that mood, if we study, then we can be blessed by Shukdev to enter into the topics more and more and more. Chaitanya Charitamrita also. Chaitanya Charitamrita Nitta Karapan. We're advised by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who's writing the Chaitanya Charitamrita, to daily drink Chaitanya Charitamrita. How do you do that? We drink the topics. It means it's like, it's amrita, it's very tasty. And from that, Jaha Hoite Premananda Bhakti Tattvagyan. by drinking this nectar of Chaitanya Charitamrita daily, one will be infused with premananda, the bliss of love, and bhakti tattva gyan. It's not that you don't, it's not just all feeling. Well, actually it is all feelings, but Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janyatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayada Haitukam. By rendering service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva, then automatically knowledge and renunciation arise. And that is the test of bhakti. Bhakti pareshano bhavo viraktiranyatra. Bhakti is seen how much one is attached to the Supreme Lord. And not only how much one is attached, but also how much one is detached. Because there can be false attachment also. So real attachment is how much one is detached from everything else. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there's a very nice description in the Saraswati Jayashree that's compiled. It's actually a biographical work on Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But of course it includes topics of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because Bhaktisiddhanta is completely made of Bhaktivinoda, not round the other way. You might think that from Siddhanta comes Vinoda. That's true when we're down here and we're going up. But when those who are enjoying Bhakti Vinoda, the bliss of Bhakti in the spiritual world, the gopis and the cowherd boys, they come down here and they give us Bhakti Siddhanta. So we can, the conclusions of devotional service, so that we can go up there. So for us, we have to go through Siddhanta to Vinod. But if you see the disciplic succession, it comes down the other way. Comes down from Krishna Chaitanya and through the 6 Goswamis, Swarup Damodar, and on and on and on down. Krishnadas, Narottam, Vishwanath, to make a long story short. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is fully composed of Bhaktivinoda, which is a very important point to understand. Anyway, I was saying about Saraswati Jayashree, there is narration there of Jagadish Bhakti Pradeep, who later became Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Maharaj, the first sannyasi initiate of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So he was a disciple of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but he later took sannyas from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So he relates there, it is not translated in English yet, or if it is, it's not published. I didn't put it in Bhakti Siddhanta Vaibhav. I guess I should have done, could have done, next time maybe around. How there used to be at the Swananda Sukhada Kunj, the place of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's bhajan in Godrum, Navarit Dham. So there would be gatherings, not very big gatherings. Who would be there? It's mentioned Bhaktivinoda Thakur would be there, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj would be there, Saraswati Thakur would be there, Jagadish Bhakti Pradeep would be there, maybe one or two others, maybe not. Maybe all the time Gaur Kishore wouldn't be there also. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur would have Siddhanta Saraswati read Chaitanya Charitamrita. He'd recite it loudly, and time to time Bhaktivinoda Thakur would intersperse comments. Unfortunately, in those days we didn't have tape recorders or any such thing. But anyway, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has expressed himself in so many writings, and again through Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and again through our own Srila Prabhupada. So it's not lost in that sense. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, time to time, he would intersperse comments, and sometimes the Premananda, Nitya Karapan, Jaha Hoite Premananda, would just make He would just make him stand up and dance. There's no music, but he would be dancing in ecstasy. So this is Thakur Bhaktivinoda. His life, if you want to call it that, it's not, we can write a biography, but it's not, real life we have to, well, I'll come to that. His real life is his inner life, but we can talk about his life, how he was born in Ula, a village near to Navadvip. But far from Navadvip, in the sense that it's full of Shaktas and materialistic people. Shaktas, worshippers of Durga and Kali, and he was raised in that atmosphere. If we see his life, it gives us great hope, because he appears, or he enacted the activities of appearing like a gross materialist, born in a family of meat eaters, materialistic people. They sent him for a modern education, which was the not so common, but that, well, especially the Kayastas. He was from Kayasta family. Do you know what that is in Tamil? There must be some equivalent. It means the administrative class, clerks, accountants, Shudras. In North India, Hindi, they call Karan. But anyway, you young boys, you don't know about these things. It's probably all the different castes you're not so much aware, because you're raised in our Krishna consciousness, where we don't have by birth castes. We don't consider. So they're Shudra by lineage, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given his whole family descendants from Chitragupta, who's the clerk of Yamaraj. So but they're very intelligent. Ramananda Rai also from the same. There's so many in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes from this kind of background. So they send their children for English education, because if you're going to be in the British administration, you have to know English. And in this way, that's a whole social thing, how the Kayastas, they leapfrogged over the Brahmanas in terms of importance due to their learning, where the Brahmanas, they mostly remained stuck with Sanskrit as English gained prominence. So anyway, he went through there and he learned all this English education and reading English books, and he mentioned different people he would read. And in his essay about the Srimad Bhagavatam, he mentioned how difficult it is to throw off the impressions, the prejudices which we have gained in our youth. He mentioned like that. And then he gradually went through a transformation and became a Vaishnava. It's a long story, which is, he himself has narrated much of that. He went through a period of being attracted to the Brahmo religion, which is very prominent at that time, and he was friends with the Tagore family, which is a very prominent family in Bengal at that time. Rabindranath Tagore became world famous, but even his father, whose name I just can't remember just now, father and brothers, they're a very accomplished family. So he was in contact with them, but he became attracted to Vaishnava religion, and eventually he went up to the heights, which we'll read now some of his songs. So he gives us hope that even we come from the depths, and actually I don't think Bhaktivinoda Thakur or Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they could have imagined the depths that Srila Prabhupada went to pick us up. because Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had a good impression of the British. They thought they were, and generally they were within their own parameters or understanding. The British at that time, they were very moral, and most of the British at that time, they had a sense that they were in India. Yes, they thought the Indians were inferior, but they had a sense of their duty, or duty, as Srila Prabhupada used to pronounce it, being raised in Scottish church colleges, where they don't say "duh" for duty, they say duty. And Srila Prabhupada used to pronounce it like that. So they had a sense of duty, that we're serving the empire and God, and they would try to do, and many Indians were grateful. If you see writings at that time, that the British gave us stability, they gave us, although some things about the legal system they didn't like, but at least it was much more fixed, and there was a chance to have legal redressal, whereas previously, actually in many ways the British brought law and order. Of course, Thakur Bhaktivinoda, he rose to, as a magistrate, he was, you could say, materially ambitious. He started off as a teacher, and then he undertook law exams when he was already acting as a teacher. He was the headmaster at, where is that school? I just can't remember. Kendrapara. He was the first headmaster of the English school there. And as I was told when I visited that area by Fakir Mohan Prabhu, who's disciplic descendant of him, or was it him who told me, or maybe someone else, that Bhaktivinoda Thakur introduced playing football at Kendrapara school, English book. So, interesting tidbits, nothing to do with his internal life. But yeah, externally he was materially ambitious, and he went on, he studied and went to law, he studied law, and then he took his exams, and he got promoted and promoted and promoted. And one Englishman who had given him a hard time when he was in office later on apologized to him and said that actually, if you hadn't been an Indian, we would have promoted you further. He went as far as an Indian could go, but they had their limits in the law system, how far he could go. So he's very responsible. He showed the example how to be a responsible householder in this world and fully devoted to Krishna also. So the depths he expresses, we can't believe it, but he feels like that. That Amar Jiban Shada Pape Rata Nahika Punnar Alesh. For instance, he sings in some of his songs how my life is full of sin and there's not even a trace of any piety. So he was feeling like that. And from an external point of view, he was a materialist. Especially in the beginning of his life, and even later in his life, he didn't seem to be a topmost devotee, because the idea is if you're going to be a topmost devotee, you have to renounce the world. But he didn't renounce the world until very late in his life. But he was very active in the world in promoting what we now call Krishna consciousness. He was the original pioneer of bringing Krishna consciousness to the West. One very important point to understand is that although nowadays some people, they decry Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and say he deviated from Bhaktivinoda, which is a big topic in itself, if you want to get into that, which I don't want to, especially here and now, is that without Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the memory of Bhaktivinoda Thakur would have been largely lost. Because Bhaktivinoda Thakur's followers, apart from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they did follow the internal life, which he recommends, as I'm going to read now from some of these songs. But at the same time, he was very active externally in preaching Krishna consciousness to the world. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he emphasized that part of it. Whereas the other, among his other 12 siblings, Lalita Prasad Thakur, the one among them, among the males who took seriously to Krishna consciousness, because one of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's sisters, Surdamani, she also was very much into Krishna consciousness, but not all of them were. Surdamani, I believe that was the one. So he took to the internal life, but then no one would have known about Bhaktivinoda Thakur except a few people in a village, a few villages here and there. And of course, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is now known throughout the world due to our own Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is a product, you can say, of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. There's more to it than saying he's a product of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but for our purposes now I'll say that much. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he went from the depths to the heights. And what is the height? The last few days I've been speaking about the Prem Parakashta, the highest heights, which is service to Radha and Krishna. Understand? Trying to Tabe Hama Bujbo She Jugal Piriti. To become qualified to understand what are the loving affairs between Radha and Krishna. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he revealed his inner life as a servant of Radha, and I'll go through some of that now. I suspect that this was largely written for his own bhajan. Definitely he's mentioning his own bhajan. But he did want it shared also, at least for those who are qualified, because after he passed away, he appeared in a dream to Paramananda Vidyaratna, who was a disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was on the order and desire of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who had started printing and publishing on the order, on the desire, under the guidance of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was also printing books, and that responsibility he'd given to the practical matters, he'd given to Paramananda I just said his name, Paramananda Vidyaratna. So Vidyaratna. So in a dream shortly after Bhaktivinoda Thakur passed away, he said, "You collect all my songs, because many of them were published in Sajjana Toshani, the magazine that Bhaktivinoda Thakur had started, and they were there here and there." He actually didn't get all of them, Paramananda Vidyaratna. There are some which they're not in this songbook, which is Srishib Bhaktivinoda Giti Sangraha, the collection of songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, published from Gauriya Math, Calcutta. So this was the collection that Paramananda Vidyaratna had. But there were in Jaiva Dharma, and there are some songs published also. So anyway, most of them are here. And there may be elsewhere also, some others that didn't. So he wanted them shared. But at the same time, in the Gauriya Math, they generally didn't sing these songs. But I'll go through some of them now. Now, I'll just go through 3 songs here. They're the last songs in the series of songs which are collected in a collection called Gita Mala. Although they were published in that way, but They were individual collections of songs. Siddhi Lalasa, before that is Shoka Shatana, and so on. So in this series of songs, he speaks first of all about how he'll qualify to enter into the pastimes of Radha and Krishna as a female maidservant of Radharani. Dhamera Sharup Shuribe Nayane Hoibo Radharadasi. He starts the song by saying Kobe Gorabane Shuraduni Tot. How by becoming a madman, literally, in Navadvip, he'll become qualified, or the holy Dham of Navadvip will manifest to him, and he'll become a servant of Radha. And in several songs he elaborates on that theme. And then he comes to describe the general role, how he's meditating in Navadvip on the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And there's so many things. You have to go through it yourself. And then he wants to join the Manjaris, the young girl gopis, servants of Radha, and then he's called out. Stop sitting here meditating. Come, there's some service to do, and so on and so on. But in this song, which I'm going to read now, you can show that. He describes what is technically he called his Ekadash Bhava, the 11 symptoms of who he is and what he is in his name, his personality, what he's doing in the service of Radha and Krishna. It's more specifically to Radha, because the young girls, they serve Radha personally, and the young boys, they serve Krishna personally. And there's also the young girls, they get to serve Krishna, and the young boys get to serve Radha. But it's mostly the girls are serving Radha. So he describes, and it's very high topics, but what should I say? What's my excuse? Well, do we need an excuse? Srila Prabhupada didn't speak on these topics, but he did tell us to read the works of the Acharyas. We have to be suitably qualified. I've been talking about all these things, why I'm saying all these things, because we have to know where we're going. We're going generally out of this material world to Vrindavan, and more specifically, he's describing. I'm just going to go through 3 or 4 songs. These are just samples of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writings, of his inner aspirations. They're much, much more than we're going to go through here now. So I'll read through this. Actually, if it's sung, it's more feelingful, because song gives rise to emotion. It gives rise to emotions, it expresses emotions. I'll go through this now by speaking. The translations which are given here, my translation might be a little different. I might express it somewhat differently, and I might not translate some words exactly the same way as it's translated here. So he describes, this Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who he is in the service of Radha, but it's his Siddhi Lalasa, it's his strong aspiration for attaining that position. In other words, he's thinking he hasn't made it yet, although he's always there. But he's going through he's showing to us what it means. We have to go up step by step by step, even if it takes many lifetimes. But this is where we're supposed to be going. Not exactly the same as him, because everyone is different. But this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's personal perfection, siddhi. Borane Tarit. Baran means here, Varna. His bodily color is just like her, not his. Her bodily luster is just like lightning. Can you imagine? Dazzling, so bright. Bashatara Bali, her dress is speckled. It must be dark background and speckled as if with stars. Kamala Manjari Nam, not Kamala, interestingly. Not Kamala. You might think for female be Kamala, but he always writes Kamala. And his sons also. It wasn't Bimala Prasad or Lalita Prasad. Always in the short form. Kamala, so her name is Kamala Manjari. Share Baro Barsha. His age, Share Baro Barsha Bayasha Shatata. His age is always 12 and a half. Can you work that out? No. Means if you're 12 and a half, you must have been born 12 and a half years ago. But he's always 12 and a half. Peter Pan principle. Shananda Shukadadham. And his kunja, because all the manjaris have their own kunjas, their own forest groves where they prepare everything very nicely for, well, in Godrum, Navadvip, you can go, you can see. That's where he's doing his bhajan in Navadvip. But then that is also, not exactly, it's in Navadvip, it's in Vrindavan. So for those who can see, they can see. Navadvip and Vrindavan are the same, literally. Shri Karpura Seva. His service is to arrange and bring camphor for the service of the divine couple. Lalita Gon, Radha Juteshwari Hon. So he's in the group of servants under Lalita, and the leader, overall leader of the group of gopis that he's in is Radha. So you may not understand all these things. I mean, even technically, you may not understand all these things. Mameshwari Nath Srinandanandan. Amara Parana Dhan. So she recognizes that her queen, which means Radharani, her queen's master is Nandanandana, Krishna in Vrindavan. And Krishna, Krishna is my life and my wealth. Sri Rupa Manjari, Prabhritir Shama. Being under Lalita, he's under Rupa Manjari, although he comes in the disciplic session of Ananga Manjari. Sri Rupa Manjari, Prabhritir Shama, Jugala Shevar Ash. Her aspiration is to serve the couple, Radha and Krishna, in the same manner as Rupa Manjari and other of the gopis in that class. Abhasya Sherup Sheva Pabhavami Parakashta Shubhishash. So her great faith, her great aspiration that surely I will attain service in that way, and with great faith that this is my highest aspiration. Kabe ba e dashi shong shidhi labhibe radha kunde basha kori. When will this maidservant attain this complete perfection, living on the banks of Radha Kund? Radha Kunda. Radha Krishna Seva Shatata Koribe Purba Shriti Parihari. Residing on the banks of Radha Kund, serving Radha and Krishna perpetually, eternally, and forgetting everything previously. Amar Jiban Shada Pape Rata, all that distress, that will all be forgotten. That will be left behind. There's no trauma. The Buddhists, they're traumatized. Just cut it all out. Nothing there. Nothing left. But there's no trauma. We're just, yes, we're here. And it's like a nightmare. You wake up from a nightmare and your happy life begins. So when you have the happy life, then you forget the nightmare. Then the next song, he goes on to describe more his feelings in this regard, his feelings and his aspirations. There's all aspirations, Siddhi Lalasa. Yeah, so we can go on to the next song, begins with Vrishabhanu Suta, which means Radharani, the daughter of Vrishabhanu. Vrishabhanu Suta Charana Shebane Hoibo Jai Palodashi. I will be a protected maidservant, means under the guidance of others, protected by them, overseen by them, means other gopis will oversee me in my service to the lotus feet of Radha. So she has said that she's a servant of Radha and Krishna, but we'll see that. And she sees them equally, but her particular service is to Radha. Sri Radha Shuk. What is her understanding here? There's some philosophy here. Sri Radha Shuk Shatata Shadane Rahibo Ami Prayashi. Everything I do is simply, I'm just trying all the time, all I'm doing all the time is simply for the pleasure of Radha. But there's not exactly a condition, but an understanding here. Shri Radha Shuke Krishna Jai Shuk Janibo Manete Ami. We don't talk about it, we know in our minds that if Radha is happy, then Krishna will be happy. Radha Pada Chari Sri Krishna Sangame Kabuna Hoibo Kami. Therefore, I will never desire to leave the lotus feet of Radha and personally and directly associate with Krishna. Let Radha, everything we do is so Radha and Krishna can be happy together. We don't transgress. We don't overstep our adhika, our eligibility. Our service is to serve Radha, dress her nicely, make her feel happy, joke with her, so she's in a happy mood and looking very nice, so that Krishna can enjoy her. She and Krishna can enjoy together. It's a big job, how to know all these things. Shaki Gana Mama, Parama Suhrit, Jugala Premera Guru. The Sakhis, the older gopis, they're my best friends, and they teach all these things. How to serve the divine couple's love, particularly. Serving them, yes, but the whole purpose of their existence, the whole purpose of Radha's existence is to love Krishna. The whole purpose of Krishna's existence is to love Radha. So, in this way, we have to learn how to serve them in a way to nourish their loving feelings and interactions and so on. What's written there? Tadanuga. Actually, I think that should be Tadanuga. Should be a long A. It's female, right? Tadanuga hoye. Becoming a follower of those elderly gopis. Shevibo Radha Charana Kalapataru. Following them, not pushing yourself forward, under their orders and protection always, of the senior gopis. I will serve Radha. Again, it's her aspiration. Serve the lotus feet of Radha, which are a wish-fulfilling tree compared to. Radha Pokachari Jejan Shejan Je Bhabe Take. Whoever is, or whoever leaves or is against the party of Radha, whoever they may be, whoever they are, whatever they are, however they might be, they may be like that. But Amito Radhika Pokapati Shada. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's identity. I am always biased. I'm always toward Radha. I'm always in that party. Kabu nahi heri take. Because I'm in that party, I don't even want to see anyone who's against Radha. This specifically refers to the pastimes of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, which is spiced up by the presence of Chandravali. Chandravali is also a name for Radha. It's a very beautiful name. A row of moons. There's only one moon in the sky, but when Radha comes, it seems like a row of moons. But that's also the name of her cousin sister, who is her rival in loving affairs, at least in the past. So those who are inclined to Chandravali, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Sometimes people ask that what's the antidote to envy? There's no envy in the spiritual world. Well, it comes pretty close. And the funny thing is, Chandravali doesn't hate Radha, but Radha doesn't like Chandravali at all. But it's all superficial. But it sure seems like it's real. So another song. If you're all wondering, it's time to get back to Bhagavad Gita as it is. Well, we're getting there, but we're spending a little time pirouetting on the thin ice here. So another song then. Sri Krishna Birohe. It says Radhika Das. That's wrong. It should be Radhika Dosha. It's a very different word. Dosha means abhastha, stiti. I know. She sings, Shri Krishna Birohe Radhika Dosha Amito Shahite Nari. I cannot tolerate seeing this situation of Radha, seeing what is her position when she's suffering from separation from Krishna. Jugala Milon Shukera Karon Jibona Charite Pari. I can give up my life for the sake of bringing them together again, Radha and Krishna, which for their happiness of bringing them together. Radhika Charan, Tyajya ama Karnete Pralaya Hoy. If the very thought of leaving the lotus feet of Radha, even for a moment, it's like a total devastation. If it's like thinking of being totally devastated. You may not understand this, but it sure is a lot better than merging in the impersonal Brahman, isn't it? Buddhism, nothing. If we can't understand, at least we can understand this much. Karnete pralaya hoy. Radhika tare shataba mori. Shiduka amar shoy. For the sake of Radha, I can die 100 times. That unhappiness, I can tolerate. For her happy, if it makes her happy somehow or other. Eheno Radha charana jugal paricharja pabo kapi. When will I get service at the lotus feet of such a person, this Radha? Ha ha brajajan, more daya kori, kobe brajabane lobe. Oh, Brajajan, the inhabitants of Vrindavan, when will you, being merciful to me, when will I attain that situation in the forest of Vrindavan? Bilasha Manjari, Ananga Manjari, Sri Rupa Manjari Amake Tulia, Loho, Nijapade, Deha Mor Shidhi Shah. So he's mentioning the names of some of the prominent manjaris, assistant gopis, and it's saying, praying to them, you give me this essence of all perfection. Lift me up and take me to your lotus feet. So that's the end of the Siddhi Lalasa section. In this, his aspirations, to be a her, to be a she. Very interestingly, in this songbook published from the Gauriya Math, next comes as an appendix to this, in which the author is given as Janoik Sri Bhaktivinoda Kinkora Likito, written by one servant of Bhaktivinoda. It's written by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And it's well known. Dushtamon tumi kishe Vaishnav pratishta tare nirjane ghare tava harinama kevala koitava. Because Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I'll translate that. O wicked mind, what kind of a Vaishnava are you? For the sake of name, fame, prestige, and all these nonsense things, which in the course of this song he described as being just like pig stool. Pratishta Tare, you want to sit in alone doing Nirjan Bhajan, but it's all simply cheating. So he goes on in the whole song, and the conclusion of the song of this song or poem of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is that yes, you do this Nirjan Bhajan. But first, you have to attain eligibility by doing kirtan. And kirtan for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur meant singing kirtan, of course, and also preaching Krishna consciousness. So, we can finish this section. By singing one song of Bhaktivinoda, short song. You can put it up there. We'll read the translation that's given here first of all. There's something that's moving. I'll sit down to sing. We can read the translation here. But it's not funny English. If your desire for the worship of Srimati Radharani does not come about. Literal translation. Anyway, it's understandable. If your desire for the worship of Srimati Radharani does not arise, we could say, literally come about, does not arise, then your so-called worship of Krishna is completely useless. Or if you want to be more literal, it was completely useless. If you want to be literal. So the sun, sun without sunlight. Is there such a thing? No. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that just like if you think there's a sun without sunlight, so if you're talking about Krishna without Radha, I don't accept that. It's meaningless. Sun without sunlight. So in the same way he says, I don't accept there's any Krishna without Radha. That Agyani, you'll find in the Madhva Sampradaya, they put a lot of stress on Gyani. Ramanuj also, because Krishna says, Gyani tvatmaiva me matam. The Gyani is the best, Krishna says. And Gyani in their understanding means one who knows about Krishna. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Kevala Madhava Pujiyesho Agyani Radha Anada Kore abhimani. If you think you're a great jnani, but you don't worship, or you only worship Madhava, Krishna, without Radha, then by default of neglecting Radha, you become very proud of your worship, but what's the use? I'll read it from here. I like to read. Radha Kovahi nahi korbi takar shonga. I'll never associate with such people. Chete ichasi jodi braja. Oh no, he's giving an chete ichasi jodi braja rasha ranga. If you want to, in your heart, if your heart's desire is to enter the bliss of the rasa of Vraja, then don't associate with such people. Radhika dasi jadi hoy abhiman. If you have this abhiman, here abhiman is used in a different sense. One sense it means conceited or proud. In another sense it means a sense of self-identity. So if you identify yourself as the maidservant of Radha, Shigroi Miloi Tava Gokula Kan, then you'll very quickly attain to Krishna in Vrindavan, where he's called Kana. Kanan, you say in Tamil. So that means Krishna in Vrindavan. It doesn't mean Krishna in Tamil Nadu. So you're making a temple of Radha and Krishna in Tamil Nadu, but it won't be in Tamil Nadu. You'll have to secede and become part of UP. That'll be popular, right? But actually Vrindavan's not in UP either. Vrindavan is its own, it's way. Brahma, Shiva, Narad, Shruti, Narayani, Radhika, Pada, Raja, Puja, Ye, Mani. Brahma, Shiva, Narada, Shruti, all the Vedas, Narayani, Lakshmi, they consider the dust of the lotus feet of Radha worshipable. Uma, Rama, Satta, Shachi, Chandra, Rukmini. Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva. Rama, the wife of Lord Narayana. Satya, Satyabhama, or could be the wife of Brahma also. Shachi, the wife of Indra. Chandra, Chandravali, or maybe it could be said the wife of the moon also. Rukmini, Radha, Abata, Shabe, Amnai Bani, or the disciplic succession based on the Vedas, know all of these great female personalities to be avatars of Radha. Heno Radha Paricharja Jakar Dhan Bhaktivinoda Tar Magaye Charan. But whoever has the desire to serve this Radha for a person whose wealth is the service of that Radha, personal service, Bhaktivinoda begs or desires to be at their lotus feet of such a person. So we'll sing this now. We can go through it. Radha bhajane jodi mati nahi bhela, Krishna bhajana tava akarana gela. Ataparahit suraj nahi jani, Radha birahito madhava nahi mani. Kevala Madhava Pujaye Shogani Radha Ranado Karai Abhimani Kavahi nahi korbi tar karsanga Chitte ichasi jadi braja rasa ranga Radha Dasi jadi hoy abhiman Shigre milai tava gokulaka Brahma Shiva Narada Shruti Narayani Radhika Pada Raja Pujaye Mani Uma Rama Satta Sachi Chandra Rukmini Radha Avatar Shabe Amnai Bani Hino Radha Paricharja Jakardhan Bhakti Vinota Magaye Charan Hare Krishna.